Holy City Center Radio. It is episode 74, and I am your host, Christian Sanger. Today is January 20th, 2023. Happy Friday. I don't know about you, but for me, this week just flew by, probably because I was off on Monday. That always helps when you're off from your job. Well, in my case, one of my jobs is a Holy City Center job. That never ends. But I'm sure that helped make the week go by even quicker. It also helped that my New York Giants advanced in the playoffs by beating the Minnesota Vikings. That also helped kick off the week. I was in a very good mood because of that. So had to brag on them because this week's going to be a little tough. I don't know how much longer I'll be able to brag about the good season they put together. I know none of you care about that, but I do it anyway. Before we jump into the stories, just wanted to say that a quick reminder that Holy City Center Radio is now broadcasting 3 times a week. We're aiming to come out on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. May vary a little bit, but that's the goal. So it's definitely in your best interest if you want to stay up to date on everything, to like, subscribe. That certainly will, keep your algorithms right, keep my show downloading into whatever program you use, and make sure you don't miss an episode. Unlike in the past where it was once a week, and then, there's some variations on even that due to schedules and things. We're doing shorter episodes, making sure that you're hearing the latest news, what's going on in Charleston, and you certainly don't want to miss any of those. Whether it's these important stories or some of the silly ones. And I've got a couple silly ones to talk about today, which is good. So make sure you subscribe. I mentioned liking the podcast as well. And that helps me out, helps the podcast get out there to more people. So to review. So if you're on a platform that allows you to review podcasts, please leave me a good one. And hopefully that'll help, get some more people listening, of course. And I do appreciate all of you that have already done that. All right, without any further shameless self-promotion, let's move on with the stories for today. First up, Bojangles is going to start selling alcoholic sweet tea here in South Carolina soon. Now, hold on. Before we jump to conclusions, no, you're not going to be able to walk into a Bojangles location and pick up some hard sweet tea. Not in the store, not through the drive-through. You're not going to have people ordering alcohol through the drive-through. That is not allowed. That is not what's happening. However, the Carolina fast food chain is now producing Bojangles hard sweet tea that's going to hit shelves in March here in South Carolina as well as North Carolina. However, as I mentioned, not in restaurants. Instead, you're going to be able to find it at retailers and chains, mostly like gas stations, grocery stores, things like that. So some examples they had in a press release. Circle K will be a spot that you can find it. Harris Teeter, Walmart, Food Lion, places like that. So again, not in the restaurants, but you will be able to find it in the state here in March. Bojangles says they plan to sell the beverage in the form of 12 packs that feature 12-ounce cans. They're also going to do individual 16-ounce cans for those of you who want a little bit bigger drink. So yes, if you love Bojangles sweet tea, chances are you might like the hard sweet tea if you're a drinker. So keep an eye out for that. It seems like everybody is getting in on the hard alcohol thing these days. Seems like every week there is some brand or random flavor that is popping up, in stores, in gas stations. It's wild right now. It seems like I'm constantly getting press releases for these types of things, but this one I felt was more exciting to share because it's Bojangles. Come on, that's silly. What fast food chain do you know is releasing their own alcohol? Since we're talking about drinking, I guess we'll stay in the same sort of vein. We're talking about drugs now. Earlier this week on Tuesday, actually, is when this story came out on ABC News 4. 2 men are facing drug trafficking charges after cannabis was allegedly found in their luggage at the Charleston International Airport on Monday, January 16th. Airport police say the 2 men, one is 22, one is 20, were on a Los Angeles flight that stopped in Denver before arriving in Charleston. Authorities say they received a tip about a subject at the airport possibly trafficking cannabis and traveling with another subject. Police say a K-9 unit detected the presence of narcotics on 2 pieces of luggage with one of those guys' names on it. He was then arrested after allegedly also giving false information to an officer. The officer said roughly 57 pounds of illegal narcotics were found in his luggage. Approximately 26 pounds of illegal narcotics were found in the other gentleman's suitcase. So, in total, that's 83 pounds of drugs that were found. If you're wondering, if convicted, they face a minimum prison sentence of 1 year and a maximum of 10 years, which cannot be suspended or granted probation. They will also face a $10,000 fine. Now, if this story sounds somewhat familiar to you, it's not deja vu. It's because it pretty much the same exact thing happened last week. Back on Friday, January 13th, unfortunately, I didn't catch this story before I recorded last week's podcast. Pretty much the same thing happened. So here's that story. Two men, once again, were arrested for alleged drug trafficking, over 33 pounds of cannabis, and 2 jars of what are called moon rocks. These are a product that are known for their high concentration of THC, which is the major psychoactive component that is found in cannabis. So just a higher concentration. It's a product that where places where cannabis sales are legal is something that you can pick up. So, according to the Charleston County Aviation Authority Police Department, authorities received a report of two men traveling on an American Airlines flight with contraband. Once their luggage arrived, an officer and his K9 picked up the odor of narcotics in 2 pieces of luggage. The suspects, one is 23, the other is 20. When they reportedly walked to the baggage claim, picked up the luggage, and headed for the exit, they were approached by authorities, and things went south from there for them, as you would assume. Both of them fled on foot towards the exit. They were continuing to flee even when giving verbal commands to stop, according to police. They were eventually stopped and handcuffed. Um, and just like the other story, they're facing all sorts of charges for having cannabis in their luggage. So again, wasn't deja vu hearing that story this week, just very, very similar instances that occurred over less than 7 days here in Charleston. So if there's a lesson here, if you're traveling somewhere where cannabis is legal, not a great idea to put it in your luggage and bring it to a place where it is not legal, especially if you're doing so with many, many pounds of it. Not a good idea. Next up, Republican former President Donald Trump, the only president to ever be impeached twice, will on January 28th make his first public appearance for his 2024 presidential run here in South Carolina. Why is this his first stop? Of course, because South Carolina is an early voting state. And since he announced his candidacy in November, we've been waiting to see what he was going to do as far as campaigning. And this will be his first stop in the state. It's going to be taking place in Columbia at the State House. He'll be joined by fellow Republicans, U.S. Senator Lindsey Graham, and another one of his most loyal backers, South Carolina Governor Henry McMaster. Yes, January 28th in Columbia, you can expect some traffic and crowds as the former president will be there for this campaign rally announcement and whatever else it may turn out to be. Not too much has been revealed about this event. However, his campaign did say that the state leadership team will be announced, and I'm sure there'll be some other announcements made as well. So, whatever ends up happening, you can rest assured it'll be interesting, as most things are with the former president. Moving on, the International African American Museum, which plans to open this year, this week announced that Congressman James E. Clyburn will soon receive an honor for his lifelong service to South Carolinians. Clyburn, who is 82, is the first chair of the museum's board and has been a long-time supporter of the project. He'll be honored in the Carolina Gold Gallery, which will bear his name. For those who don't know much about Representative Clyburn, he has served 15 consecutive terms for South Carolina's 6th congressional district. He is currently serving as the House Assistant Democratic Leader, and previously he served twice as a Majority Whip in the House. He is currently the third ranking House Democrat. The dedication gift was made by two folks from Texas who have a foundation that supports social justice and civil rights causes, constitutional freedoms, and education. So you will see that in the Carolina Gold Gallery. It'll bear Representative Clyburn's name. The museum was set to open this month, But as we mentioned on a previous episode back in December, they made the decision to postpone the opening. So we don't have a set date yet. And that postponement was due to some challenges they were having with the building's humidity and some of the temperature controls, which obviously are an issue. So no new date has been announced. I will keep you posted on that. But we now know at least one section of the museum, what it'll be. What it'll be called, the Carolina Gold Gallery, but we'll also have Representative Clyburn's name associated with it. All right, so it's January, New Year's resolutions, all that good stuff. People always trying to make changes. One such thing is maybe you want to volunteer more. Maybe you want to do some more, acts of service in your community. And I have one organization that could certainly need the help. Reading Partners this week said they have an urgent need for volunteers. This is a national organization, but they have a chapter here in South Carolina. It's an educational nonprofit that says they are dedicated to ensuring that all elementary school students have the foundational literacy skills necessary to be successful in school and beyond. So, again, January, which by the way is also National Mentoring Month. What a perfect time to sign up and learn more about this. Here in the state, they're looking for an additional 125 volunteers. Basically, you help students learn how to read, help them, through tutoring and some other methods, help them just become better readers and up their literacy. As you may know, South Carolina doesn't have the best history with education. Our state ranks pretty low in a lot of categories. And after the pandemic, there's been some gaps, as far as like test scores and how people or students are developing. So this is a great opportunity to help out here in our area. Interested volunteers can sign up for an upcoming orientation by visiting readingpartners.org. Last piece of news before we start talking about the weekend. Island Brands USA, which is based here in Charleston. Most of you probably, if you are familiar with them at all, you do the product they make is the Island Coastal Lager. So it's a local company, and one of their projects is that beer. You can find it, as far as I'm aware, in several bars in town as well as on shelves. But in any event, they are based out of this area, and they made an announcement this week that they are going to be the primary sponsor of star driver Kaz Grala and the Sam Hunt Racing Team's number 26 Toyota GR Supra throughout the 2023 NASCAR Xfinity Series season. That was a lot of words, a lot of which does not make much sense to me, as I am not a car person. But here's what you need to know. Island Brands USA is sponsoring, is the primary sponsor for the number 26 car that you will see during the NASCAR Xfinity Series season. You can see some pictures of the car, all with the brand all over it, all the paint and everything, as well as like the driver's helmet and the jumpsuit and all that good stuff has all their logos all over it. You can see that on holycitycenter.com. Link is in the show notes. Looks pretty cool. It's fun seeing a local brand on a car that'll be racing, one of these NASCAR series, which is pretty interesting. I also have the Xfinity Series schedule listed on my website, so you can see, when they're going to be in the area. I know some people like to travel and go to different races. So here's your chance to go there and see a car decked out with a local brand all over it. All right, so it's almost a weekend. Hope you all have a safe and happy one. All sorts of fun things going on. I just want to shout out a couple of events. First, for those of you that have children, the Palmetto Islands County Park will be hosting their annual Fairy House Festival on Saturday from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. This is in Mount Pleasant, this park. It's one of the Charleston County parks. And advanced registration is required, so you will want to make sure you register before just heading there. But basically, it's this is a nice thing for kids. They can go, they go to the park and they can make what are called fairy houses. These are, for fairies and gnomes of Palmetto Islands County Park, as they say on their event page. So just a fun thing. Kids can make houses out of non-living natural items such as twigs and leaves and other things that they can find, in the park. They'll have some other activities as well, face painting, for instance. Tinkerbell will be on site for photos, and children are invited to come dressed as a gnome or a fairy. So just a fun little silly thing for those of you with kids. I'm sure they would really enjoy it. They get to do some hands-on activities, use their imagination, and get outside, which is always good for kids to do, of course. If you're looking for some other activities and not aren't necessarily focused on children, my friends over at Sightsee, the coffee shop on Line Street, on Saturday are hosting the best pop up ever, as they call it. You can check this out from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. So, besides the coffee shop, of course, who's hosting it, they're going to have some other bests. So, why is it best? Well, first of all, Sightsee was named Food and Wine Magazine's best coffee shop in South Carolina last year. And then the other vendors and folks that they're going to have there have also won awards for being the best something. So, on site will also be Brandywine Coffee, which is Sightsee's roasting partner. They were named Food and Wine's best coffee roaster in Delaware. There will be brunch options from Mansueta's Filipino food. So that project, which is mostly a pop up at this point, you can catch them at different restaurants and events around the area. But they were, despite being a pop up and not having a brick and mortar location, Food and Wine named them the best Filipino food in South Carolina. And also, the head chef recently appeared on Chopped on the Food Network. So another best of. And then finally, they're going to host what they're calling a tiny bus concert inside the coffee shop's 1974 VW bus. Inside there, they're going to have the Charleston City Paper Music Awards DJ of the Year, DJ Moldy Brain, playing some music. So another person who has won a best award. So that is why it's the best pop up ever, 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. at Sightsee in downtown Charleston. And lastly, this event is been around, and I've been to it a few times in the past. It's always you know what you're going to get each time you go there. It's a nice event that you just know. Hey, pretty much anytime I decide to go, it's going to be a good time, and that's Oysters on the Point, which is held at Charleston Harbor Resort and Marina. They have several dates this winter that they'll be hosting this event. Saturday, January 21st is the next one. If you can't make it, they're also going to have one on February 4th and again on February 25th. Each of these events runs from 2 p.m. to 6 p.m. Obviously, you can tell by the name, there's going to be oysters for you to enjoy that you can purchase them by the bucket. There's also live music, beach games, some local vendors. You can also purchase all sorts of cold beverages while on site as well. So you can check that out. And if none of those are really tickling your fancy, there are so many things that you can do here in Charleston. Everything runs the gamut, and you can find details at Charleston's best weekend events list over at holycitycenter.com/events. So that'll do it for this week. We ran all over the place, from boozy sweet tea to a former president visiting the state, people being arrested at the Charleston airport, weekend events. I mean, just everything. NASCAR, all sorts of fun stuff going on, and I can't wait to get back on the microphone for Monday's episode. We'll see what stories happen between now and then. Hopefully, we'll have some good stuff to talk about. No one likes bad news, so hopefully it's all good, sunshine and roses on Monday. It'd be a nice way to come down from the weekend, right? Thank you so much for listening. Again, as I said at the top of the show, we're trying to do this 3 times a week, so be sure to subscribe so you don't miss any episodes. And also, if you want to help me out a little bit, you can like the podcast, rate it, review it, whatever your platform allows. All of that certainly helps increase the reach of the podcast. You can also go to holycitycenter.com/shop to pick up merchandise. And you can also go to patreon.com/holycitycenter and look up some other ways you can support the site. I also need to say thank you to Lindsay Marie Collins, who produces each and every episode through LMC Sound System. She also has a local podcast, FMB Radio, which you should listen to. And thank you to Tyler Boone, whose music you hear in each and every episode. You can find him on all streaming platforms. He also is behind Boone's Bourbon, an award-winning bourbon that is made here in Charleston and is available throughout the state. And with that, I will say goodbye. Have a safe, happy weekend. And as always, good night and good luck.